Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to you all. Welcome to the Power of Trust You, Pulse of the Industry. My name is Vanessa Martinez, Product Marketing Manager at Trust You, and I'm so excited to welcome you all to our Q2 live platform event, where we will be going through our Pulse of the Industry reports, a report capturing quarterly data on travel intent, traveler behavior, and the latest hospitality trends. You may have seen the original Pulse of the Industry report that we released last month, but based on some recalculated numbers and statistics, we have updated the report to accurately reflect the review volume trends both globally and by region, and we'll be walking you through those today. Just a few housekeeping items to start. We do have you all muted on the line to ensure the best sound quality, but we do want the session to be interactive. So please chat us your questions or use the Q&A. Let us know like box in the GoToWebinar control panel to information on any of the topics we discussed today. Also, and as a bonus to those of you who are on the line, there will be one lucky winner announced at the end of the session who will receive a $50 Amazon gift card. So be sure to stay until the end in order to qualify and find out if you are the lucky winner. Joining me today, as you can see, is my colleague Catalina Brinza, who was the creative mastermind behind this report. Welcome, Catalina.
Hi, Vanessa. Thanks a lot for inviting me today. And hi, everyone. I'm Digital Marketing Manager, and with Trust You, I entered the world of hospitality and hospitality tech. And I must admit that this industry amazes me every day because it is so complex and challenging, and it brings something new every day. And especially what I really like about it is the fact that ultimately its purpose is to make people happier, live the most beautiful experiences, and live their life. And within the last few months, I have developed a passion for seeing various evolutions in terms of travel and hospitality, watching how consumers' behaviors are changing, as well as the emerging trends. And today here, with the help of Vanessa, we will be sharing with you some of the relevant insights from our Pulse of the Industry report.
We sure will. Thank you, Catalina. And to give you an idea of how we'll be discussing everything today, we'll begin with the 5 W's of the Pulse of the Industry report: who, what, where, when, and of course, why. So going through and really breaking down the internal structure and reasoning for the report. And you'll also hear some key findings from industry experts, as well as a big picture look at global trends, along with a narrowed down peek at regional findings that you may be surprised by, and others that you may be experiencing yourselves. And then we'll finish off by giving you the resources you need to dive into this data further. So to jump into it, Catalina, what is the Pulse of the Industry report?
To answer your question, Vanessa, the Pulse of the Industry is part of our data marketing project. And with the help of our data marketing initiatives, we want to support hoteliers in their decision-making process with the latest insights and trends from the industry. And we can't speak about the Pulse of the Industry without mentioning first the Review Insights reports, which is one of our first research in terms of data marketing. And most probably some of you have already heard about it. So the Review Insights reports is a yearly research that basically compiles an overall perspective on travel and hospitality, and we look at certain indicators and how they evolve throughout a year, such as review volume, impact scores, travel contribution to GDP, mobile adoption rate, and so on. And usually we launch this report somewhere in March so as to capture and analyze the data from the previous year. When it comes to the Pulse of the Industry report, based on the success that we had in terms of the Review Insights report, we decided that we want to have something that would offer us the opportunity to look at quarterly data so as to give you access to the latest insights. And as the Review Insights reports, the pulse of the industry includes regional and global travel stats, but this time they are available in a single report. As for the Review Insights reports, we have the same combination between our own and third-party research data to be able to give you a comprehensive overview. The first edition of the report was published in May, and we were very happy to receive positive feedback from the industry, and especially seeing that it is a useful piece of content. And I think that the timing couldn't have been better because 2022 marked a new era of travel, and we saw in the last almost 3 years the world changing, and this impact travel and hospitality in ways we couldn't have imagined before. And that's why we believe it's important to have access to travel and hospitality data and insights as they happen. And in terms of the data that we use for the Pulse of the Industry report, so as we mentioned, we use two main data sources. And the first one is our own data that comes from our platform, such as review volume and impact scores. And the second type of data that we're using for these reports is the third-party research. We use third-party research to identify certain trends and overall evolution. And for everything that comes from the third-party research, we have included links in our report so that you can access the original materials. And in terms of the time frame, because this is a quarterly report, we have gathered and analyzed the data for the first quarter of 2022, which means everything from 1st of January to March 31st. We also received a lot of requests from our customers and from our partners to compare this data with 2019, with what we could call the golden age of travel. So that's why both in this presentation and in the updated report, for benchmarking purposes, we have included travel data, specifically review volume, also from the first quarter of 2019. And let's say why we do it, why Pulse of the Industry. With Review Insights reports, we noticed that unfortunately, we can't capture everything that's happening throughout the year. And especially the last 3 years have proved to us that things may change even on a weekly basis. And that's why with the Pulse of the Industry, we wanted to have the opportunity to look at more granular level at trends and make sure that we better capture and understand the evolution of travel intent and behavior. We saw that the last period was a proof that social, economical, and political events can impact travel very much. And with this report, we have the opportunity to look at how exactly it affects travel and hospitality on a quarterly basis. And last but not least, we want to use this report as an opportunity to offer more insights into pressing challenges and unique opportunities for hoteliers.
Yeah, many reasons indeed, and thank you for giving us that introduction and a brief breakdown of the report. It'll definitely give us clarity into the data that we will be sharing with everyone in just a moment. But before we do jump into that, we have a quick insights video from our internal industry experts from different regions around the globe. We also recently hosted a series of LinkedIn live streams going over both the Review Insights report that Catalina mentioned, as well as our Pulse of the Industry reports. And our experts covered their regional trends, challenges, and what recovery looks like to them. So this is just a few points that they brought up in those live streams.
nowadays, keeping the balance between technology and the human touch while creating unforgettable experiences for guests seems to be challenging sometimes, right? If you consider all the other challenges hotels are facing today. Usage of data and technology has proven the safe way to move forward and focus on what matters most, the human connection. So hospitality is all about emotion, and yeah, I think we shouldn't forget this.
About the defining moment in the travel industry, there's one, and I'm not surprised. In this post-COVID era of flexible working, travel is going to play a much bigger role in the way companies collaborate, engage, and motivate their people. And that also means travel will rely even more on reviews.
It's almost like, you know, if they don't have a way to message the hotels directly, they're less likely to go face to face and ask for a solution. So I just think, honestly, that the use of tech is just a huge trend, and I don't think it's going anywhere. I think it's going to increase. So I feel like we all need to adapt to it, and I think the US is just a little maybe ahead of the game in that realm because we all have a phone addiction.
Is always interesting to hear what different regional perspectives hold. I know a lot of us feel what we call, you know, the COVID fatigue after adapting to what the pandemic has done to our industry and continues to do, but it's important to realize that while globally we are definitely in a better place than just a few years ago, that not all regions are recovering at the same rate. We have some that still have travel regulations, testing and vaccine regulations, and while global numbers are important, regional numbers can be a bit more insightful for each of you, and thankfully we were going to talking you through these now. Oh, excuse me. There we go. And we will jump into some key findings for you.
Yeah, so in terms of the key findings, we want actually to focus on two of them, and they come from our own data. And the first one is related to the review volume. And as you may already have heard, this is no news that travel already continued to recover in Q1 2022. What we saw in our third-party research, and maybe you'll be seeing also throughout some of the slides, there are some insane percentage increases that you can find in various articles, like 200, 800% increase when comparing the current situation with Q1 2021. And although these seem like very encouraging numbers and sometimes can set up us for very high expectations, we decided to look at how these first numbers of 2022 compare against the golden age of travel, which is 2019, and also based on the request that we have received from our customers and partners. And of course, as you can see from this graph as well, we're not yet at the pre-pandemic level. The differences are shown in the graph, but chances are that Q2 will close this gap. In some regions, we hope we'll see an even greater spike compared to 2019 in the same period. In a nutshell, if you can see from the graph, the review volume globally is somewhere at 60% compared to 2019. The Emea, in terms of the region, is the leader of travel recovery, and it is followed by US and APAC. And we're looking forward to see the data for Q2. We're very hopeful that it will be even more promising compared to the first quarter of 2022.
Yeah, so I think realistically, the data and the graphs are great, but we also have a really good asset available to us as well, which is impact scores. And Impact scores leverage all review data from hotels, and we sort of fill in the gaps between what people say and how that impacts scores that they leave. And these impact scores are based on our semantic analysis from all reviews that we are collecting. So if we take a look at these, stepping into the top 3 impact scores themselves, service, hotel, and location. These 3 sentiments have the most positive impact on review scores. And if we break these down, service is an obvious one, as guest experience is more important than ever. And I feel that guests are also more critical and expect a lot more in their travels now. It's something that they've been waiting to do, that they've been saving money to do, and so now their expectations are a little bit higher maybe than they were previously. But hotel can cover a lot of ground. So with any or broken features that should be updated, I think that one can be a little bit more broad as far as what people are speaking about when they say hotel. But location, this varies because it's purely based on what the guest deems as a good location for their experience. So maybe they want to have something close to the city center where it's easy to access public transportation, or it may even be walkable, or they may want something quieter and experience on the outskirts of town. Again, it's all depending on what the guest is seeking. So a tip here is to always ensure that you're very clear in your hotel description where your hotel is located and the benefits of that location. Moving on down to the top 3 negative impact scores, we see Wi-Fi price in room. That first one, with so many people being able to work remote now, having a stable and fast connection is imperative for those who are using your hotel as a working vacation. And we do not see this trend going anywhere anytime soon. Wi-Fi will definitely be a key impact going forward as well. Price is also something that can be tricky. We all know this, but being transparent in what you have to offer for the price, for your price and what a guest would be paying is key to maintaining expectations, and of course attracting the right type of guest to your hotel. And of course, room, very similar to the hotel category. This can cover a wide array of subcategories, but what we can guess here is that rooms were not up to either their standard in size or cleanliness or dated furniture and or amenities. And then comfort, of course, can play into this as well. So top 3 positive, top 3 negative impact scores globally, and we will be taking a look at these regionally as well in just a moment.
And I guess moving on to the global and versus regional trends, first of all, let's speak about global. We choose to focus on 2 of them. And the first one is technology. And of course, this isn't something new, but there were some interesting evolutions at the beginning of the year that we wanted to share with you. And we think that the title of this slide encompasses exactly the role of hospitality tech: the good, the bad, and the necessary, and it's all in one. And the good relates to all advantages of hotel tech. The bad, of course, comes with all the challenges and risks associated with it. And of course, the necessary tech has become essential in streamlining operations, but also managing guest experience. And even the research confirms it. Our industry fellows from Stay in Touch found out in their recent study that a majority of the industry, so 80% of the respondents in the study, have implemented the tech solution during the pandemic or plan to do it before the end of this year. And we expect tech adoption to accelerate even more. But with this need of connecting everything and moving everything to the digital sphere, there are some risks that need to be managed. And one of them is related to data privacy and security. With hotels collecting, processing, and storing so much information about their guests, it became one of the most targeted industries by the hackers, actually the 3rd one globally. And keeping data secure, we believe that is one of the pillars of the guest experience. A data breach can take away all the trust that you have built with your guests. And on this, we'll be actually launching a series of articles, the first one in July, where we'll deep dive into managing data privacy and security in this new era of travel. So stay in touch.
Yes, and speaking of staying in touch, it's now really more important than ever that you stay in touch with your guests. And there has been a massive shift in the way that we used to, quote unquote, handle communication with guests in regards to check-in, on-site requests, relaying restaurant or hotel event information. And this was usually done face-to-face. But as an industry, we've had to make adjustments to be more of a contactless experience. And the challenge with this is that it can become very impersonal. That special one-to-one face-to-face experience may not be replaced with a templated email or a generic voicemail that gets sent to each guest. And to bridge that gap between the impersonal but still maintaining, that comfort and safety for a guest in a contactless experience is, Trust You. We have a dedicated section of our platform called Live Experience to do just that. And you're able to send brief on-site surveys and chat with guests to ensure that their stays are memorable in a good way, but also to handle any complaints or requests while they're still with you, rather than reading about it later as a public negative review online. You can also see here that you're 3 times more likely to receive on-site feedback versus post-stay feedback. And improving your guest experiences, especially while they're still on-site and with you, can only do you good in the long run.
And that's all what was for hospitality tech. If we're moving on to the second global trend that we decided to focus on is sustainability. And we wanted to share with you the results of a recent study done from Expedia that looked at the roads towards a more sustainable travel. What do consumers want and how do they approach this? What we see year over year is that more travelers are searching for sustainable options. But here comes the challenge. The main challenge for travelers is that they are not sure where to start in terms of traveling sustainably. And we think that that's where you as hoteliers can support them by emphasizing the things that you do in terms of sustainability, whether it's about recycling, working with and promoting local suppliers, or food waste initiatives. Everything that you do leading to a more sustainable experience can make consumers decide whether they want to book a stay or not. And especially this is relevant because travelers are willing to pay more for sustainable options. So make sure you don't forget about emphasizing your sustainability initiatives in the booking process and during the stay as well. And these were our global trends. And now we'll be moving to our regional trends. And we'll be focusing on the 3 regions that we have included in the report, which are APAC, Emea, and the US. And starting with APAC. In terms of recovery, APAC is the region that still has to catch up with the other ones. And as you can see, some increase was reported in terms of international traffic compared to the same period last year. But unfortunately, with most of the countries in Q1 2022, such as China, Japan, and New Zealand, still having restrictions on travel, and some of them really having restrictions, international travel recorded a very low volume, at least compared to other regions. But what was encouraging to see is that countries that eased or lift their restrictions in the first quarter of 2022 almost saw an immediate increase in the number of bookings. And as an example here, we have India, Fiji, Vietnam, Indonesia, Australia. They all saw an immediate increase, and some of the numbers even reached 80% from bookings from the 2019 numbers. This is the case of India, which is considered the leader of travel recovery for the months in the APAC region. This trend will most probably continue in Q2 when many other countries already relaxed or plan to relax the entry requirements. So we're really looking forward to see the Q2 data for the APAC region as well. And of course, we still believe that this is the main challenge for the APAC region. How to keep travel alive in these times of slow recovery. And we decided to compile here a short guide on how to make the most out of the current situation, in the hope that things will get better for some of the countries that have been hit hard by the restrictions as a result of the pandemic. And one of the first things relates to information and communication, making sure that your staff as well as your guests are informed on the latest developments in your country in terms of restrictions. All of the entry requirements have been confusing for both travelers and hoteliers. So that's why keeping up to date with them will show that you care about making your guests' booking and staying process as comfortable as possible. Next, a flexible cancellation policy is a must. We've recently saw a study from booking.com that showed that almost 80% of people would prefer to book a stay if there is a free cancellation or rescheduling policy included. And I think this doesn't even relate only to COVID-19. We saw during the beginning of this summer what happened in various global airports with the ongoing staff shortages. So a flexible cancellation policy will remain very essential for travelers moving forward. And as for cleanliness, well, cleanliness, it is here to stay. What we saw from our impact scores, they show that cleanliness was always important, even before the pandemic. But now it just got accentuated. And I even saw an article that named cleanliness as the new standard for luxury. And last but not least, I think that it's really important to try and be active in your local, regional, or national community and voicing your concerns or issues together with other hoteliers. This is especially important for identifying opportunities in terms of promoting certain destinations and putting pressure as much as this is possible on the government so as to support the industry in these challenging times. Or another example can be participating in various partnerships with other private and public companies. And one of the examples that comes to mind is the Airbnb partnership with Thai authorities to promote sustainable nature-related attractions.
Yeah, I mean, there's honestly so much we can do and promote to all of you as well, as far as really the title says, just keeping travel alive in times of slow recovery. So I hope some of these resonate with some of you as well. But in the interest of time and just making sure we cater to your region especially, I want to jump into the impact scores for APAC specifically as well. Again, as a reminder, impact scores leverage our review data, helping you fill in those gaps between what people say and how this impacts the scores that they leave. You may notice that the top 3 positive and negative impact scores are fairly consistent with what we saw for global statistics. Service, hotel, and beach, these 3 sentiments have the most positive impact on review scores in APAC. Which also happened to be the same top 3 as Q1 of last year as well. So not a whole lot of shift in a 12-month period. But if we break it down, service and hotel, we also saw at the global level. Beach is an obvious one as far as location goes, but this is also indicative that not only are people striving for a beach-based hotel and a beach-based experience, but really for, in general, open spaces and all nature-based options as well. So something to keep in mind if you have or are near an outdoor space that you think is something that could be promoted. Stepping into the top 3 negative impact scores, we again see that Wi-Fi, room, and price, exactly as we saw with the global trends, just with price and room switching at the 2 and 3 spots. And this also gives us a clue into what other region breakdowns are, as well as, of course, all of these roll up into that global impacts that we saw at the beginning as well.
Yeah, I think what's interesting to tell in terms of the impact scores is that Beach not only was one of the top 3 in the first quarter of 2021, but also one of our surprises in terms of the 2021 yearly impact scores, and most probably we expect for it to still stay in our top impact scores, but we'll see that from the Q2 data. And now, in terms of the regional trends for the Emea. Of course, unfortunately, we can't speak of the beginning of 2022 Emea without referring to the Russian-Ukrainian war. And honestly, I still sometimes have a difficult time to accept that this can happen in the 21st century. But what I think was impressive, though, to see was the kindness and support shown by the international community for the refugees, but also for those deciding to stay in Ukraine. At the end of March 2022, more than 4 million Ukrainians fled their country. And since then, this number more than doubled. The hospitality industry, being one of the most hit sectors since the pandemic, has united and showed one more time that it's an industry made by the people and for the people, and that there's always a place for more kindness in the world. And among the many initiatives that were out there supporting the refugees, we decided to feature 2 of them that united the efforts of hoteliers. And the first one is Hospitality Helps, which was key in centralizing all the help hotels could offer in terms of accommodation. The second one is an initiative by Sustainable Hospitality Alliance, and these are some recently launched guides on how you can employ refugees but also offer accommodation to refugees. And of course, we're not speaking here only about the Ukrainian refugees. The conflict came at a cost for everyone, and the most visible impact we are still experiencing is the surge in prices. And this also impacts a lot the industry. And here are just some of the examples of how much more we need to pay for certain product categories. And these numbers are only from the beginning of this horrifying conflict. So we still expect that these numbers are much, much higher now. But just to kind of finish on a positive note, despite all this setback and despite another beginning of an uncertain year, Emea still remains the leader in terms of travel recovery. And we saw from our review volume that it actually reached 70% compared to Q1 2019, which proves that people are willing to travel, people are looking to live a life of peace, of normality, and we hope that this trend is here to stay.
I sure hope so too. But to carry on that note and going back to impact scores, again, there aren't a whole lot of surprises here. They are very similar to APAC region and of course those original global numbers, but actually with a much higher impact score relation. So as you can see for service, we're actually looking at almost nearly 9 points for just service alone. Service, hotel, and location, same. Service quality is important. Your hotel and what it provides is important. And location should be accurately reflected and promoted to the right guests, just as we've touched on. Same 3 for the negative impact scores, and really affirming these categories, as Catalina mentioned, are here to stay. And really, if if that's the case, if these categories are improved, your overall performance score can also be improved in the long run. So there's sort of that push and pull of, well, yes, what happens once we, you know, accomplish this? What if we better our Wi-Fi? What if we're more accurate in our pricing or improve, you know, some of the subcategories that people are speaking about in regards to room? Those will only help your score in the long run. So these are here to stay. If we can work on, you know, improving these impact scores as a whole, we should be seeing a lot more positive in the next couple quarterly reports as well. Switching over to the United States, this is our final region that we will be covering. The US does remain to be a strong and viable market. Travel actually reached 60% of the review volume compared to the same period in 2019. And restrictions either continue to be or have been completely removed in regards to air travel, mask policy, vaccination and or testing requirements. And almost 75% of American travelers plan to take a vacation in the next 6 months, either domestically or internationally. But part of the rising prices that Catalina mentioned previously for Emea are also very much in truth as well here in the United States. And with rising gas prices, experts expect these trips to be closer to home. And as I just mentioned, those COVID restrictions are lifting, making it easier for Americans to venture out, with also a 4% vaccination increase since October of 2021. And again, as a reminder, this data is reporting on Q1 of this year. And getting a bit more into demographics, the younger generations plan to travel more, while the older generations plan to spend more when they do travel. So baby boomers are leading that trend with an average spend of over $1,100 per trip, and Gen X is next in line with about $670 per trip. I thought also this was an awesome statistic that I wanted to just verbally mention as well, as solo travel is going up. So 1 in 4 travelers, so nearly 25% are saying that they plan on traveling by themselves in the next 6 months as well. So generally you'll see, you know, even on surveys that I see, it's, you know, what was your travel? Was it business, pleasure, family, friends? And now, you know, maybe we'll be adding a lot more solo options in the future as well to accommodate those guests too. Oh, and back to the impact scores, last but certainly not least. You'll see one new addition to this list, and that is food. Along with location and service, food is a huge plus for Americans, and I'm sure some of you are smiling or even laughing at that, because as an American, and for any other Americans on the line, you know that food is the backbone of a lot of American supersize me or portion size jokes. But this is also very telling of the market in that food is a major part of a guest experience, and taking that into consideration is, you know, truly in a hotel's best interest. But no surprise on those bottom 3, except that they actually have the largest deterrence in numbers, even over the global statistics we saw at the beginning, with room having almost a potential 10-point decrease in score if the content of those specific reviews are not taken into consideration or implemented. So consistencies across the board. Obviously that food topic sticks out. The numbers along the bottom stick out as well. So we are kind of seeing the same but different model. The regions are, you know, coming together at their own pace, but we are seeing consistencies in how they're coming together in the scores and the topics that are being touched on by guests as well. With that being said, I know we have covered a lot in a short amount of time, and I'd like to take a quick pulse check from you all to see if the trends you saw today were as you expected or if any of them surprised you. So for those of you that have your mobile phone, go ahead and scan the QR code to let us know, or you can give us your feedback at slido.com with the code you see below, 2356112. It is a live poll, so I will wait a few seconds for people to scan or join, and then see how we can see how everyone's feeling. This is also anonymous, by the way, so no name or anything will appear beside any response. So go ahead and scan the QR code or join at the website using the code you see there. And I will move over to the live poll to share the results in just a moment. Making sure everyone has access to the QR code still. And it will be on the live poll as well. So if we switch over to this window. I see we have some coming in already. There we go. I like the honesty of they weren't sure what to expect. That's great. I'm glad we could surprise you in at least that way. But it seems the majority. Oh, now this is what I love about live polls. I love seeing everyone's thought processes in mid-thought. So I say it's actually pretty close, but it probably was more so what you expected than yes, being surprised by new content, which is good. That means you're on top of your regional trends and maybe even the global ones as well. But thank you for those who are participating. I see we have about 15 people who have scanned in. And it looks like that's slowing down a little bit, so I'll go ahead and move back into the presentation. So of course, we gave you a lot right now, but what's next? You will see, as Catalina mentioned, we'll have a Q2 version. If you want to touch on that a little bit, Catalina.
So with the first edition of the Pulse of the Industry being published, we're moving on and starting to already work for the Q2 Pulse of the Industry report, which most probably will be launched somewhere at the beginning of August. So stay in touch with us. But also, if you want for any trends or any insights that you'd like to have featured in the report or maybe in other materials that we are currently working on, feel free to get in touch with us and we'll make sure to have a look at them.
Yes, thank you, Catalina, for that, because we actually did have someone asking if we had any data on impact scores for Canada specifically. So maybe we can do different country spotlights or things like that. So thank you so much for the suggestion and the question. We definitely take these to heart. And we can, definitely work on seeing if we have some solid trends specifically for Canada next time around. Beyond what you'll see from us next quarter, you'll also be receiving a post-event email with the slides, recording of this event, and a myriad of other resources, such as those LinkedIn live stream sessions that we pulled that short video from, the Pulse of the Industry report, of course, and some additional relevant articles and blogs as well. So thank you so much for joining us today. Before you all leave, we do have our giveaway announcement. So I did have a colleague shuffle the names of who attended, and the lucky winner today is Stella Sue. So congratulations. We will be in contact soon to get your $50 gift card. If you have any additional questions, we do have about 2 minutes left in the scheduled time. If you have them, please chat them now. But for those who are logging off, a reminder that everyone will receive the slides as mentioned and the recording. And as you exit today's session, there will be a survey asking for feedback on the webinar. It should take less than 2 minutes to complete. And in the spirit of communication and feedback, we hope to hear from you there. Again, we will hang out for a few more minutes if anyone has any questions, but thanks again and have a great day. We do have one question, and it's purely for the next event that is hosted. We actually have another one scheduled later today or tomorrow for me or anyone based in the US that will be focused on the Emea time zone as well as the US. Same data, just a little bit different focus. And as far as next content, we will probably have an additional session for Q2. If not, we will have, of course, the report at least and some supporting materials as well. So you can view those yourself and of course invite anyone that you think would find them relevant as well. And it looks like that is the end of our questions. Again, thank you very much for joining everyone, and we hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.